So now what we have here is two fine young gentlemen, and we are going to have a discussion / debate in a very civilized manner with no interruptions. Just talking about our opinions on politics, answering questions, and that sort of like. So continue with your question, Parker.
Okay, so I was watching a couple of your podcasts, and it was the video Bush or Trump, I think it was, who was better, or even the other one, how Trump's presidency was. Did you guys do one on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I just had a question for Connor because he was talking about how the right side media is the problem. When I see like there's a problem in like both
it's a
sides.
cat.
Yeah, that is a cat.
I think what we were talking about, what you're referencing, is Nam was asking me if right-wing media plays into like sort of ideologies that they have that we find problematic, and I said yes. Is it the only thing? No. And is the left-wing media bad as well? Absolutely. I don't like any mainstream media on either side, so I hope that clears things up.
Is there any good media?
Yeah, more independent, nonprofit people just doing investigative journalism on a smaller scale because they don't have anything
Where
in
do
it
you
for
get
them.
most of your news from?
I have a good. I mean, I watch left wing podcasters, left wing YouTube channels. I like The Intercept, sort of a smaller news company. I like Sludge, which is investigative journalism, which looks specifically at money and politics. I have a few, but I don't like New York Times, MSNBC, CNN at all.
Yeah, not too good.
No.
I've been starting to watch Newsmax, and I follow Ben Shapiro. I like Ben Shapiro. He's got some good content. But yeah, I don't mess with Fox anymore. MSNBC, CNN. I don't really.
I think you have the right idea, but you're going to not upgrades, in my opinion.
Newsmax?
Yeah.
Same
sort of idea with Fox.
What about you, Jeremiah? Where do you get your news?
Honestly, been trying to stay out of the news because like just had enough of it, and ever since Trump lost, I've just been out of it and not really caring. Just letting it vibe, and I'm kind of pissed. I don't really know how to feel, what to think. How y'all think about gas prices? Those about to be skyrocketing, right? Who's happy to be paying $5 a gallon for gas? I know I'm not.
Well, speaking to that point, and this kind of ties in with what Parker said. What we did in our last video was we pulled up an article from Fox, but it wasn't a political commentary. It was just what I like to do is like to look at articles that just have the facts, and then you can make up your own decision about it. You don't read the bottom part where they start making they start telling you what to think. So we did that for the $2,000 check thing. But talking about the Keystone XL, we're watching a lot of left-wing media and stuff, and they're just like, oh, it's good that Biden revoked it on the first day. And when I looked at the facts from a more strategic point of view, I still generally agree with that assessment, but there's one key point I don't agree with, is that we're going to have to keep getting oil from the Middle East. Like if you accept
come from somewhere.
If you accept, like, I don't like to do this because I like fighting pro climate change, stuff, but if you accept that the US is going to be on oil, on fossil fuels for the next X number of years, I would rather it come from Canada than from Saudi Arabia.
Like that's what I don't get about it.
That's like a very narrow form of the argument, I think.
Well, that's what I just don't get about it, because we got to get it from somewhere. It's not like Americans are going to just consume so much less because this is going to get canceled. And isn't, like, I don't know, does anyone know the environmental impacts of, like, where we're now going to be getting it from? Like, odds are it's a lot worse than the Keystone one, right?
Do you know?
Yeah,
do you know
I
anything
think we can
about
all agree if we had to play the lesser of two evils, it'd be better to get it from the Keystone. That's good. We all wait, Parker, you agree?
Yes, I do.
Let's go. That's 4.
I think if Biden had a plan to, number one, maintain those jobs and have a renewable infrastructure, like you two will disagree with this, like Bernie's Green New Deal, where you have lots of jobs that replace the jobs that are in fossil fuels, and you can maintain that energy. That would be a better solution than just repealing the Keystone without any without any thought to the future, just saying that they might do it at some point. What do you guys think
Like,
about that?
What was his proposal? Like, how much was his Green New Deal gonna be?
He hasn't proposed a Green New Deal. Oh, are you talking about Bernie?
Bernie.
I don't know the exact figures. What do you think, Connor? It was like a I think
Did he have his own, or was it? Did he endorse AOC's?
no, he wrote it with them.
Oh, he co-sponsored. He co-wrote it.
Yeah, I don't know exactly the figures, but within the short term, it might end up costing more. Like some of these other big social programs that you guys disagree with, like Medicare for All. But if you look at the figures in the long term, like 30, 40 years from now, it ends up being cheaper.
The biggest thing about the Keystone, just to like touch back on it, was the jobs. Like, I mean, you said in Bernie's plan, it was to make new jobs for the jobs lost, but like those pipeliners, like they worked hard on that. I think they were working on it pretty long, and just to like halt it, thousands of jobs lost, that kind of like rubbed me wrong.
I agree with that, but the thing is, once the pipeline would have already been built, then those jobs would have been gone anyways, because they only needed like 30, 50 people to actually maintain the pipeline once it was actually built through the United States. So they would have to look somewhere else for their jobs anyways in the near future. So I'm sympathetic to any argument that is about losing jobs when you're not creating them, like Biden's proposal. But in this particular instance, I don't think it was a really long-term solution anyways for maintaining those particular jobs.
I just wanted to talk about this. What was it? Biden, was it his first or second day? The military was put in like a parking garage or something like that. What was the left saying? Because I don't really follow their news. What were their thoughts on it? Were they even talking about it?
Yeah, they were. Do you know about that, Connor? Or
I guess I maybe saw a picture of it, but I didn't read it.
no. I'm not sure if they actually cleared up why that happened or who made that decision, but most people on the left were condemning it. I don't know about Biden himself. Well, he's not really part of our left-wing media, but
yeah, this is another important thing. So you saw our first 2 videos. Our next 2, we're shitting on Biden incessantly. We do not like him at all.
Yeah, you guys like Bernie.
Yeah, well, more, but like in terms of Biden's first few days, pretty much what we think is that he's doing a lot of executive orders, to try to make it seem like he's really, like, in terms of the left's point of view, that he's really doing a lot to overrule what Trump did. And then Nan and I think that in like about a week he's going to be done, because there's going to be less media coverage. The left-wing media right now is all like, look at all this great stuff Biden's doing. He's turning us around. But we think he's ultimately just going to be like Obama, not that great at all, hawkish, in a lot of wars, and then ultimately just not doing a lot of great stuff. But when that time rolls around, like, the majority of the country isn't going to be involved in politics like they are now. So, yeah, and in terms of what he actually does, how he governs, Nan and I do not like him, just to make that clear.
You see Biden getting in any wars?
Probably. At the very least, staying in them.
I mean, yeah. What wars are we in right now? Where do we have troops?
And what, like 7 countries?
yeah,
7 countries?
I believe you can look up the list if you want.
Hey, Trump didn't start any new wars. First president in a while.
Except when we came close to the brink of war when he killed General Suleiman.
That is technically true, Jeremiah. That is true. We give him credit for that. Obama drone striked more people than Trump did.
On the brink of war, they like launched a few missiles near one of our bases. They were nowhere near trying to come to war with us just because we assassinated one of the biggest terrorists in the world.
Yeah, because
I'm pretty sure, like,
they would have gotten
sorry.
crushed. They would have gotten crushed by us. Go ahead, Parker.
Yeah, exactly. It was nowhere near a war. It wasn't even gonna come close
I know.
to that.
I know,
We
but like, look,
assassinated one of the biggest terrorists in the world. It was a successful mission. They were pissed. They launched a few drones, gave, I think, a few soldiers like some head injuries. I don't really know what came of that.
I can kind of remember
something
though.
about some of them having some issues, but I mean,
Okay.
do you guys really see that as Trump almost getting into a war?
No,
Like, do you guys not agree with him assassinating him?
Let's let Parker speak.
I just want to say that I mean, I remember like that happening and us thinking like, oh gee, something could happen, but I didn't really think we were on the brink of war, but I was kind of scared a little bit.
Yeah, but do either of you think it was a necessary action in defense of the United States? Not in terms of international peacekeeping, but in terms of homeland security. Was it a necessary action?
I 100% do. That man was responsible for the deaths of hundreds of Americans. Was he not? Can you not agree with that? Is that a fact?
No, I haven't been trying to argue that he was trying to start a war. Like,
he killed and ordered the killings of hundreds of Americans.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about Trump. That's been more of Nod's argument in this whole thing. I don't really care that much about that.
No, I don't. I'm not arguing that he was trying to start a war. I'm just saying that it was like a bad strategic decision. Even if I grant you that is true, which I don't know the facts on the matter, I just don't think it was a good strategic decision.
Well, why?
Because it sets a bad international precedent that we can just go into other people's countries and kill their generals.
Okay, I see where you're coming from with that. I will admit.
I mean, similarly, you could go in and like, you could shoot Vladimir Putin if you think he's a bad dude. But I mean, that wouldn't help the stability of that country either.
But okay, that general wasn't anywhere near the level of Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, but are we talking levels or are we talking precedent? Are we talking philosophy or policy? That's
I'm saying that dude was a terrorist, one of the most dangerous terrorists in the world, that very likely was planning the killings of hundreds of more Americans. And I am totally okay with the fact that Trump took out that threat to our country. I am happy he did it because I think it very well could have saved many American lives. That's what I'm saying. If there was evidence that people were planning to do stuff and take Americans out, then yeah, I think we have to act on it.
Okay, so I think all the opinions were heard. Let's not dwell on that subject any longer because that's just like one dude and it's like whatever. So let's talk about some issues that are really affecting us right now. So yeah.
Big thing that really gets me going is probably like Twitter and Facebook, like just all this like what's the word I'm looking for here? Silencing like Republican users. I 100% against that, and I just don't think that's right to push push an agenda, basically. What do you guys think of like Twitter banning Trump or pausing his account?
Don't like it. I think Nod and I both agree. We do not like that. That's not something we support. And I think that's an important part of not being like a Democrat and not liking like all of the moves that the Democrats make by any means, because we think independently about things. And obviously there's a contradiction in the left wanting to be able to say whatever they want and then also censoring the right. Like, I don't think you're going to find any disagreement with me or not on that.
Yeah, like an argument in left-wing circles recently has been, oh well, a lot of our people have been silenced in the past, therefore we're going to play a tit for tat situation. Well, even if I grant those people that maybe Trump did something that was unfair when looking at their own social media accounts, I think you still have to be principled on this issue and saying that even if you disagree with the sentiments, you can't just, ban quote unquote free speech, even
Right.
though it is technically within their legal right with the liability shield and stuff. But it's not a good precedent, I don't think.
True.
And the whole Hunter Biden scandal. What did Facebook do? I think Facebook and Twitter, they blocked the story basically from being heard. And I saw this like poll survey, and it said a bunch of exit polls.
On a call.
A bunch of exit polls said that people who voted for Biden, if they knew about that Hunter Biden scandal, they probably would have switched their vote. And the percentage was really high. I obviously don't have that cited, but that kind of like that censoring, just I don't like that at all. Yeah, it just bugs me.
Yeah. I mean, if there's undeniable evidence that he did something egregious, I don't blame people for voting for a candidate who doesn't have corruption in their family. Unfortunately, Biden and Trump are kind of both all about corruption. So I think, again, it would come down to people voting on a lesser of two evils, which is what most people did. And Biden won. I don't know. And that doesn't really matter to me because and I like candidates like Bernie who don't have, corruption written all over them.
Jeez. Got any more topics? Keep them coming. Jared, what do you want to talk about?
Yo, how about Tom Brady getting to his 10th Super Bowl?
Okay.
No, I don't know. I mean, that whole Biden thing kind of scares me. I mean, are you guys at all nervous about like his ties with China?
Sure. Not really. We don't like Biden. Like, we criticize him for mostly everything. I just said we think he's corrupt.
What are your thoughts on his ties with China? Like, that doesn't scare you at all?
Sure, Jeremiah. What do you want me to say? We don't like him. He's corrupt.
The only thing that worries me in terms of China is like strengthening deals like NAFTA and TPP, which will outsource more American jobs. That I think that's something that we both agree that we don't like, right, Connor?
I did not hear that.
He said he doesn't want jobs to be outsourced.
Yeah, is Biden planning on doing that?
Well, I mean, he was kind of the architect of NAFTA, right?
Yeah.
Which was the problem in the first place. Okay, so another thing that we've talked about last episode, but I want to hear your guys' opinion on this. And I don't know if Biden will follow through or not, but the stimulus checks. What do you think about putting money directly into the hands of the American people?
I mean, I think it's not the right solution. I think we just need to open it up and let people work. I get whatever, but giving people money isn't the solution. They just go waste it, and then I mean, even $2,000, that's okay. That's a rent payment and then groceries for a few weeks. Takes them 9 months to come to an agreement on something, and then another 4 months for the second one. It's just not the solution. It's not what people need. It doesn't help people. It's like a little Band-Aid on 6 gunshots. It's
So wait, are you saying it's not the solution because it's taking the legislator too long to do it, or it's not the solution economically?
I'm saying that's one of the issues with it. Yeah, if you're out here saying you're trying to help people and then you're sitting there and not working with people for months on end because you're too stubborn to come to an agreement.
Who's not working
part of the
with
issue?
people?
But I'm also saying that I don't agree with the way that their solution to it. Because I think that allowing people to work for their money and rewarding the people that work for their money is better than rewarding the people that aren't, and just paying all these people unemployment and giving them direct stimuluses. Like, yeah, in the middle of the pandemic, once, twice, sure, but I don't know.
Go ahead, Parker.
I think the stimulus package, the first one that came in, I mean, half my coworkers were just wasting it, just spending it on like clothes and stuff. I don't, for how much money it is, how much money are we spending on it?
Like $300-400 billion.
Wasn't it? I thought it was like $1 trillion.
That's the whole
Was that-
entire package. But if we're talking about just the $2,000, that's around the right figure.
Okay. Yeah, again, like Jeremiah said, I think it's a little too late. We're pretty far into this. Not that it's too late that people can receive this money. I think it's just we're 9 months in, and people have, like, that train's already gone. Like, people have already suffered, lost their jobs. Like, I think it should have come a little bit earlier.
So you think they should continue suffering because it's taken up to this point?
How do you guys feel about like jobs and opening up the economy and all these restrictions that are still put on like restaurants? Like the restaurant I work at, we can only have 50 people and we have to close at 9 o'clock at night. What sense does closing at 9 o'clock at night make? Why can't we stay open an extra 2 hours? Like, are more people going to be spreading more corona at that time? Like, how do you guys feel about that?
Well, in terms of like the temporal curfew, I don't really understand that part. But in terms of like personnel, if you're saying that we can just wildly open up the economy and let the free market reign supreme, what's to say that many more people won't get sick and be more detrimental to the economy than it already is?
Why shouldn't it be the people's choice?
Because the virus is not the people's choice. The virus spreads whether you want it or not.
But how people respond to the virus should be the people's choice. You should allow people.
That's an ethics argument. If it was only your body at the line, I would say that that's a fair argument. But it's not. If you go out in public without a mask and other people aren't wearing masks too because it's not mandated or whatever, then a bunch of other people besides you might get sick. They might die. They might spread it to their family members. It's not a moral choice.
Well, no, Jeremiah, what you're saying would make sense if it only affects you. But like not saying when you can give it to other people, like why should your choice?
Sorry, you cut out there for a second.
Why should your choice harm other people? Yeah, why should your choice harm other people? Like, I understand you're trying to say it should be their choice, and like if it only affected you, like, oh, if you got sick because you weren't being safe, fair enough, like you're bad. But yeah, what about people that are spreading it to like elderly family members and stuff like that? Did they deserve that?
People can choose to not go out and they can choose to be safe. Can they not?
Right.
Like, if people need to work for their jobs and like I need to work to provide for my family, how's that any different than not being able to be safe around your grandparents?
Well, isn't there a pretty easy solution to this? Number one, you'll be able to support your family, and number two, you won't be putting people at risk. Direct stimulus payments.
That does solve both problems.
Direct stimulus payments. That's the answer for everything. Just hand out money.
That's the answer for this pandemic.
The top one, not even 1%, 0.1%. The billionaires of this country have gotten $1 trillion richer during this pandemic, and you got one $1,200 payment.
That's all.
Right? You could get two
like
$2,000 payments for that much.
That's all.
So why not
stocks,
give it that
it
to the people? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but why? Listen, the whole point of stock, the whole point of having stock.
Look, I get all that billionaire stuff. Like I get that. But
having stocks is an incentive for companies to turn over a profit margin. And when they turn over a profit margin, they're inherently not paying their workers what their workers should be compensated. Because anything above breaking even, maybe in order to thrive in a capitalist system, that needs to happen. So I grant you that. But anything above breaking even is inherently taking productivity from the workers and giving it to shareholders. I think Parker wants to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, just to switch the subject up, I feel like we're going on about it a lot. I got a question for you guys. Do you think Trump is the reason that COVID is as bad as it could have been, should have been?
Definitely part, definitely not all, in my opinion. So we saw a lot of countries handle it in good ways. And right at the beginning, Trump was calling it a hoax. When we had like 5 cases, he was saying they're going to go away. It's just like a worse flu. It's not that bad. Wasn't taking it seriously. Pivoted a bit on masks, as we saw. But I don't really care. Like, that's another like thing that people get caught up in. Oh, it was all Trump's fault. Oh, it wasn't his fault at all. I don't really care. Like, oh, where's Parker? He left. Man took off.
Dang.
That's tough.
Yep. Just to get back to the
Oh, he's back.
stimulus stuff.
No, let me keep answering Parker's question.
Oh, good.
Sorry, I'm back.
No, it's all good. So, wait, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I was gonna end by saying I don't really care. What we should have done is done what other countries did and were successful with. So a lot of European countries, for example, they mandated a lockdown for the first few months, and then they nationalized wages. So they paid people like 85, 90% of the wage that they would have gotten had they been working. And then since everyone was in a lockdown and everyone was being smart, they beat the virus mostly eradicated it incredibly fast compared to the United States. So they only had to give people their wages for not working for a few months. So they didn't rack up that much of a benefit or that much of a deficit, and it didn't cost that much for the government overall. And then people went back. Of course, they're still wearing masks and stuff like that, but COVID isn't a big problem.
What countries were most successful with that?
Most.
Wait, no.
Because I know like the UK just had like another huge outbreak and had to shut down again, right?
The UK did, yes.
I mean,
do you want to know the countries that have the least amount of cases, Jeremiah, or what?
Well, no, I just like, you talk about all these countries that had good results. I was just wondering like which ones did the best with it and had, like fewest cases now, had the best like economic comeback.
South Korea has had less than 1,000 deaths total, and they have a population of like 70 million people. So proportionally, they've had a very tiny fraction.
Wait, less than how many deaths did you say? 1,000? Is their data reliable?
Oh God!
Because I know like many countries faked their data.
And how do you know this?
Okay, if you don't believe that, then okay. The U.S. blew up their data. Like, do you know we're the only country to record COVID deaths as deaths with COVID, not caused by, but
because the hospital gets more money.
Wait, so is the U.S. inflating their data,
or in the world that records it that way?
So is the U.S. inflating their data, or are other countries hiding their data? I'm confused.
We're inflating it.
Well, you just pivoted from what you just said. We can talk about that too, but. Well, you just said, I said South Korea has impressive numbers, and you said, well, they're hiding it, and then you said the U.S. inflates it.
No,
so did we just switch off that?
Their data could be lied about. Their data deaths with corona, or caused by corona, could be way higher than 1,000. We don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
could be true.
They
could have the best medical system in the world.
There's also aggregate data where they combined what are actually reported as COVID deaths and then presumed COVID deaths. So people they marked as dying with like pneumonia-like symptoms, there's aggregates of that, and then the data is still, it goes up by a little bit, of course, but it's still fairly accurate.
I mean, hospitals get more money. Okay, the hospitals get more money with the more COVID patients they have, and that's just, I feel like. I've heard stories. I mean, I know this. You can't cite this, and you don't know if it's true. But like medical care, like people in hospitals say like numbers. People were being called COVID-related issues when it was like a car accident or something. So like they could get more money. The hospital.
Yeah, but what percentage of the total COVID deaths?
I'm not denying. I'm not saying that.
Do you know how many? Oh, sorry.
I'm not saying that we don't have an insane amount of deaths. This would be like a low percentage. I'm saying that not all of our numbers are correct. Okay. I am trying to get at that some cases aren't reported as true COVID, or they are reported as true COVID.
A small percentage.
Yeah.
Yes.
So here's just some quick Googling. So around 38,000 people die each year from car deaths. So that's like 10% of the people who have currently died of COVID. So even if you grant plus or minus 10%, we're still doing the worst in the world. So I don't really see that argument.
I'm not denying that. But when I asked my hold on. When I asked my question about is Trump the leading factor in like why this country is doing so bad with COVID, I wanted to get at like governors and like state officials and why they could have done something too.
Yeah, I think we absolutely agree with you on that front.
We do.
Right. And how people they dismiss Trump. I don't know how to word this, but I saw an interview with Dr. Fauci, and Fauci said that Trump never overruled me. He listened to everything that I said, and he did everything that I asked him to. He would never jump a bridge and say, I'm going to say this, and that's not what you're saying. You know what I mean? Kind of like he would always report out to the people what Dr. Fauci was telling him.
Was that in the early days or more now?
No, after the election, there was Newsmax did an interview with Dr. Fauci, and Fauci came out and said he never overruled me. So, but I don't want to blame Trump for everything, because when I hear people say that, it's like, dude, you can blame him just as much as state officials. Like they're our governor, she's closing everything down. Why couldn't she have closed everything down earlier? You know what I mean? Put a lockdown earlier.
And true.
I mean, you can put this on Trump, some of it too, but you can put this on Cuomo in New York.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
yeah, we don't like Cuomo sucks, bro.
Cuomo's an absolute disaster. Yeah.
No, yeah.
He's just out here bragging that he solved COVID when you got like huge, massive spikes.
Yeah. His numbers are huge. Yeah. Yeah.
And his penis is small. That's the juxtaposition.
Do you know how many deaths in the United States were caused by just Corona?
Let's hear it.
No, I don't know. I'm asking you. I remember, I'm pretty sure. How many deaths like are just total like the U.S. is reporting right now?
430,000
something.
430,000.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I remember when it was around 300,000. I was seeing like solely by Corona was only at like 20 or 30,000. That I kind of remember that. I could be off, but I'm pretty sure I remember reading something.
That sounds like it's pretty off.
I
said that sounds pretty off.
Wait, now, do you have the data that you were talking about where it took the proportion?
Look it up. Actually, do you have your laptop right there?
Let's see.
I mean, do you guys know anyone that has caught COVID? Like personally, like relatives?
I know a friend of a friend.
I'm interested in this. Look it up. How many deaths are caused by solely Corona in the United States? Because that's what all these other countries are reporting.
I'm not denying that we have 400,000. I do think we are around that number.
We have a split amongst the conservatives.
I'm saying in Maine, like how many people have you met that had COVID? Because I only know of a couple. Not saying like this deals with the whole U.S. because in different states and different places, it's highly concentrated in some areas.
Yeah, I think
I've met a bunch in the hospital that I work at.
Oh,
UMMC.
Did you get your vaccination or your vaccine?
Yeah, I have both doses. Yeah, but we're updated on every day I go into work. I work 4 or 5 days a week. They tell everyone the number.
Did you get Pfizer?
We're going down. Yeah, I got Pfizer.
Yeah, my mom got her second one.
Yeah,
her second dose like a little bit ago, but yeah.
Sweet.
I had some more questions. I'm just trying to think. Oh, geez. Switching up the subject, Big. This is switching from COVID to a whole nother thing. I think it was the interview with Trump in Charlotte. Was it Charlottesville? Talking about the statue, the good people on both sides. He was talking about the neo-Nazis and stuff.
Okay.
I think you said that he didn't condemn the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists.
I did.
in that speech, or not speech, in that briefing or whatever that was, he says there were good people on both sides. And he was totally condemning the neo-Nazis and white nationalists. He said it. I couldn't agree with when you said that he didn't.
I don't remember
He
you
didn't
saying that he
condemn
didn't condemn it.
I made sure I watched it before I came on
Okay.
here. Just
I
so
might have been
knew I
talking
had
about it in
everything
the
right.
first debate. But yeah,
Oh.
I know he technically has. Like when they asked him in the debate, he said like "Proud Boy, stand by" or whatever. But I know that he has. But I think if we want to talk about Trump in terms of racism, I think the fact that 90% of black voters voted for Biden, 8% voted for Trump says all we need to know in terms of, or gives us a pretty good indicator of how minorities feel about.
I think like this is just my view. I know you guys probably have a whole other view. I'm Republican. I get called racist. I get called all this bull crap. I love every race. I don't see race. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love every person, every type of person, LGBTQ. I don't
Mhm.
care. If that suits you, that suits you.
Mhm.
I just don't stand with the Black Lives Matter movement. I don't agree with it. And I think that 90% of Black Americans voted left was because
Mhm.
the BLM movement was riding with the left side. Do you know what I mean?
No.
I just I don't agree. I don't agree with all the damage done to like Minnesota. I mean, I saw something, I don't know if it was 1 billion or $3 billion in damage. Black people are in the streets burning down other black business owners. How is looting a Target promoting Black lives? I get it. George Floyd's death, that was terrible. That was bad, but you don't go loot your local Target because of Black injustice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Non, do you want to, or me, or something?
I'll just say briefly that in terms of the small percentage of people that actually did do the looting, I'm not overly sympathetic to the people on like Instagram and stuff that are like, oh, it's justified because XYZ. I personally believe in peaceful protesting, but I don't think that small percentage of people that with more violent attitudes should comprise the movement as a whole.
How can you say small percentage when billions were done in damage?
Well, because it was small, because there were peaceful protests. There was a bunch of peaceful protests, but there were also these riots and burning down things.
I get that, but I think just the small percentage and saying, even if it is technically a small percentage, like saying that it's just a small group of people is not true. Because there were so many people doing it and so much damage was done and so many lives were destroyed. Way more than any right-wing people have done in
Well, that's
our
actually interesting
lifetime.
that you say that, Jeremiah, because this is an article that I've had saved for a while, and I've checked on how the studies have held up in terms of other people that have done focused research and focused studies on the violence caused at Black Lives Matter protests. So first, just for context, there were thousands of protests across all 50 states for months, and 93% were completely peaceful. So actually, most of the people arrested at the protests weren't leftist radicals. A good amount of the violence was started by like these radical right or groups that weren't even radical right, that didn't really have any political affiliation. They just came in and felt like using a lot of people at once to start violence. So I'm not denying that some of the violence can be attributed to BLM sympathizers.
But their whole platform gave these people the opportunity to do that. It wasn't right wing or any conservative people. It was the Black Lives Matter movement caused all these protests, and these protests caused the damage.
Yeah, and the protests were caused by mass injustice in the criminal justice system. So basically what you're saying, basically what you just said, is that because a bunch of people went out and protested, that made it so that people could come and be violent.
Mass injustice in the criminal justice system.
Oh, yeah.
Because of George Floyd's death?
No, that's just an example. That's a consequence.
That's what sparked it, but it got people started to educate themselves about what's been going on.
Do you guys believe in reverse racism?
Hold on, Parker. Hold on. Wait, so Jeremiah, am I quoting you correctly when you said that Black Lives Matter shouldn't have done mass protests because that was a vehicle for people to come and cause violence, whether they were affiliated with Black Lives Matter or not.
Repeat that again. Sorry.
Well, what you said. Well, I told you the research and the studies about how most of the people arrested at the protests weren't like radical leftists, and most of the and me, Parker, and Nam both agree.
How many people were arrested because of the protests?
What do you mean?
Like,
you're the one saying there was a bunch of violence
rioters that were arrested.
When there was violence, there was when there was violence, there was arrests.
How, like, do you know the percentage of people that arrested? Because I know there were a lot of people that weren't arrested and a lot of people that weren't.
Especially in Minnesota. A bunch of people got away. Like, free PS4.
If you think most of the people were caught because of the Black Lives Matter riots, you're mistaken.
Not what I said. Well, that's great because that's not what I said.
Caught, but
that's great because that's not what I said. I was telling you that most of the people arrested in the protests weren't leftists.
They weren't leftists.
No.
Says who? Says them?
What do you mean?
Like,
I told you, this is from the AP. It was a study of the arrest records done at all of the protests where people were arrested.
But they just didn't identify. They just went in and
they weren't associated with BLM.
Okay.
And then Parker already agreed with us that it was a very small proportion of protests where violence broke out.
I have seen like the numbers. It like you can look a bunch of places. It's not like just a left-sided media putting it out there. There were a lot of peaceful protests, and I am for that. I think a good Democrat.
Too. I went to one.
No, I like a good Democrat, a good independent, and a good Republican can all agree that non-peaceful protests are not it. Like we can all agree that the Capitol, like we can agree that that wasn't peaceful. We can agree that some of those Black Lives Matter movement or
how do you think? How do you guys think the Capitol? What happened at the Capitol compares to the Black Lives Matter?
Well, considering that 5 people died over a false premise, that's kind of more concerning than a couple of PS4s. 5 people died. What? 5 people died over a lie that the election was stolen from Trump. I think that's a much more silly premise.
You're saying that 5 people died at the Capitol?
Yeah, they did.
So that is worse than all these Black Lives Matter movements that destroyed.
Yeah, because most of them had no deaths or injuries. 93% were completely peaceful.
How many deaths were caused by Black Lives Matter riots?
Jeremiah,
like
that's a fallacy. You can't compare that.
There was like 13,
because there were thousands of Black Lives Matter protests over months, and there was one big right wing get together, which was the Capitol riot, where they stormed a Capitol building and 5 people died. So you can't compare total numbers. You can't compare totals.
I can say the same thing about a lot of those people weren't even right wing.
Thank you. Okay, I know you guys probably don't like to hear this. It just kind of probably rubs you wrong. I've said that a lot, but there's a part of me that thinks, there were definitely some Republican people in that Capitol building. But I do think there was some people on the left that
there were. It was confirmed.
Yeah, sure. There's some. You know who else was there? Law enforcement, people who served in the military and the Navy, and most of them were wearing Trump gear.
Do you know the guy that was wearing like the horns? He had like the axe and everything. He was all painted. Mm-hmm. He was seen at many Black Lives Matter like protests, and he was interviewed by people. People knew his name. He was for the Black Lives Matter.
Leftists literally were caught planning. Many of them were caught planning to show up in Trump gear to make Trump look bad.
That's tough.
It's a fact that they were caught. You can look it up.
Yeah, but it's also a fact that they did not arrange the engagement. It was not left-wing people that arranged the engagement. If you like to go on the straw manning approach of saying there were some left-wing people and they're the one that caused all the damage, I completely disagree with that. But I would have to look
Trump
on the
wanted
data.
all that to happen?
No, he didn't want the repercussion. He wanted some resistance against what he thought was.
You think that Trump wanted people to die and he wanted them to be fighting?
Of course he didn't.
I don't think
he didn't. No, I don't think he wanted people to die. But he did say.
What do you think Trump wanted?
Trump wanted to win the election, and he thought that with the popular
No, what do you
uprising,
think he wanted by giving his speech and when he was talking to those people and said, go stand up for your rights? What do you think he wanted them to do?
Peaceful protest.
You should have been more specific then.
Because from the speech, I've listened to the speech, I think he was telling those people to go peacefully stand up for their rights, and in no part of that speech did he incite any violence.
Okay, well, let me turn this on you. When you have a Black Lives Matter cause and saying we're gonna have a peaceful protest, and a couple people might not follow that resume and go on and do something that you might consider violent, you degrade the whole entire movement. Whereas when we obviously see people being violent at the Capitol, and even if I grant you that that's not verbatim what Trump intended or what he said, how come you don't hold the same standard to that riot?
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Please. Okay. The thing was, Trump said go home on Twitter. If you look at when the riots were happening on Twitter, Kamala was saying, stay there, stand your ground, or something like, and everyone's telling him to go. I mean, yes, it was peaceful. Some were peaceful, but when you look at it, no one was condemning them. And it's not like these riots were the same day. These were different days. People saw that this Black Lives Matter movement didn't just mean peaceful protests. It also meant like destruction. So when these days, it keeps happening, destruction. I think that if you look at the Capitol, it was peaceful, turned violent by someone who incited it at the front. I think that it's kind of, you can't really compare because Black Lives Matter was over a stretch of months, and these riots and burning buildings kept happening. I feel like what was it, January 6th or 7th? When this happened? Do you guys know? The Capitol.
It was the 6th, right?
Yeah. On the 6th, I think it woke basically the whole Republican Party up. Like that it made me mad. I was mad. It's just I don't think you can compare inciting the Capitol riot and the Black Lives Matter movement.
Well, here's the thing, though. Here's where you're being dishonest, though, because you've already granted that there were thousands of Black Lives Matter rallies and that the vast majority were peaceful. And just in case you didn't know, Black Lives Matter was formed with the intention of being a peaceful movement to bring awareness and change to the racial disparities in the criminal justice system. So
Connor,
we see the
Connor, we all get that, though. The problem that
right. I was gonna explain how you guys are being dishonest.
okay.
So we look at we see the Capitol riot and it was violent, and Nan and I don't go, oh well, look at that. Every Trump supporter is violent, but you guys see a small percentage of Black Lives Matter rallies turn violent.
We don't do that either.
And you say Black Lives Matter is bad. I don't support it. I don't support how they go about things.
Because I don't. All the money goes to Joe Biden. If you literally see where the donations go, it goes to this. I don't know what the website is. It's like something blue. It goes straight to his campaign, his campaign funding.
The donations are a completely different subject. Like all the money that was donated is complete bullshit, and none of it's going toward helping.
How is that helping Black lives?
So anyone out there, if you're listening to this, that you donated to a Black Lives Matter movement, odds are it's bullshit. But that's besides the point. The problem I have is that these violent protests went on for months, and you had these Democratic officials that refused to condemn them. Trump condemned the violence, like, what, a day or two after?
That day he said go home. And then...
Yeah, he didn't even want it to happen. And then he told them, he condemned it. Trump has always condemned violence because that's not what he stands for. But Democrats can't do that. The months went on, so many violent protests, and you didn't see any of these Democratic governors or officials condemning it and saying, stop doing that, that's wrong. We need to put an end to this.
I can see Connor he's getting up, he's a little frustrated, like not frustrated, but I do want to say it was a low percentage that were violent, but that low percentage is still a lot.
Billions in damage, and you can't stand up and say, oh, stop, that's wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, and I've already said we're against violence. So I don't know.
Yeah,
what
but
kind of
how do you
preaching is
feel
required.
about these leaders that couldn't stand up and condemn the violence?
Non and I hate most Democrats. We hate most Democrat governors. We think they're neoliberals and we don't support every decision they make. That's the problem with straw manning us. You're arguing with the pretense that we automatically support the decisions of Democratic governors, which we don't. And we already said we would go about it peacefully. So yeah, they should have.
Okay.
That's kind of not what we're worried about.
So you guys support people that don't openly condemn violence, and you hate this man because you think he's this whatever. I just don't
What?
get it. Doesn't
I
make
just
sense.
said
That's not our particular.
You guys support
reason
people with different values than I do. I like people with good values and that can openly condemn when billions of dollars are being destroyed and lives are being destroyed and all that. I stand with people who can say that's wrong. The people you guys
What about when
support,
billions
even
of
though you
dollars
guys
and
don't
lives are being
support what they
destroyed by
stand
not
for.
acting on COVID?
Hmm?
That's even more money. You're talking about like petty theft and arson, and we're talking about the entire economy of the United States and your whole entire right-wing ideology, which fuels into taking money from the poor and giving it to the rich before the pandemic. And now during the pandemic, you have a couple lives that were lost in protests. I grant you that.
Okay, you got petty theft and you got arson. I'm sorry, arson. I know a kid the other day that just got charged with it.
And that's a terrible thing.
He's going to jail for what? 30 years.
We condemn all theft and arson. I don't think that's not up for grabs here. That's not what I'm saying.
We already said that.
What I'm saying is, we disagree with you following the morals of Trump, because on one hand, even if I grant you that was true, which I disagree with your premise that Trump is moral in these circumstances because he condemns violence, in many other situations, he encourages taking away from poor people, his own base, in fact. And I think that's a bigger crime to me.
Taking away from, in what ways?
By lowering the top marginal tax rate, by lying about COVID, by not accepting relief money.
When did he lie about COVID?
From the start, he knew about it. There was what was that?
Bob Woodward. Yeah.
Bob Woodward. He had a conversation with him. He knew it was going to be a big deal back in February, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was out here saying that it wasn't going to be a big deal. And look where we are now.
I think,
Okay.
I mean, obviously you can say that, but I think a lot of people in this country didn't think that. I think a lot of people in this country didn't think this was going to be a big deal.
Right. He's not solely responsible. That's not what we're saying. We're saying
no,
that
I know.
A bunch of people that are coming together here.
Right. Okay. The wall. Let's get on that. What are your thoughts on the wall?
Build it high.
This is just so funny. I love the arguments here, how it goes to Trump is the unifying president, the Democrat governors are the problem, to build the wall really high, and then just ignoring the fact that a small percentage of racial minorities vote for Trump or vote Republican. Like, it's
they're
not a
illegal.
coincidence.
They're legal immigrants for a reason. Why do they have that
Did you
label?
see how many Latino votes Trump got?
Like a third? Like
in Florida, he won Florida because of it.
Yeah, countrywide, he got like 33%. That's way higher than his 8% of black voters. That's great. He still got blown out of the park, though.
And that's Biden's failure.
Yeah, how many? Yeah. Okay.
Wait, no, but I'm just wondering. So if Trump is this unifying, non-racist president, why do racial minorities not vote for him?
A lot of them are brainwashed, and not brainwashed, but they don't know. They're fed this bullshit. And
Orange man's
a lot
bad.
Of it's true.
Like,
and
just hand out money.
Okay, and white Republicans aren't
Democrats
brainwashed
love
in the
handing
same
out
way.
money. And guess what?
What? And white Republicans aren't brainwashed in the same way? Why are just these minorities brainwashed in the voting Democrat? What about white Democrats? Are they brainwashed too?
because they're told that they are oppressed and they are told that they need this and this man will come and save them. That is why. Like,
yep.
That's just like
Democrats love to play the race card, do they not?
There's a lot of valid arguments for institutional racism.
Race with Democrats.
Not everything is not about race. What? You guys get way too tied up in the culture war. That's just not you. Well, you don't follow. You don't look at what Democrats actually talk about. You guys get way too caught up in the culture war. One Democrat says one thing, like admitting racism or claiming racism, and you guys are like, all they care about is about racism, which is sad because it takes the conversation away from the actual large amount of institutional racism that happens in the United States.
Well,
Which there's evidence for, but you guys like to believe stuff like election fraud, which there's no evidence for. It's really sad.
I mean, when I see dead people voting, and when I see the left promoting this mail-in ballots,
election fraud.
mail-in,
Okay.
like
I didn't
when
say no election fraud, Jeremiah. I said you guys believe it in general without any evidence.
You said that there was no evidence for it.
There's not a lot
I've
of
seen
concrete
evidence
evidence for
for
the
it.
election fraud. There's not a lot of concrete evidence for the election fraud in the 2020 election. No. Certainly not enough to account for the amount that Joe Biden won by in the popular vote.
right. But when I see my dead aunt voting for Biden, I kind of like, it's like, bro.
How do you think?
Like, no, I got one thing to say: the mail-in ballots. Okay.
Yeah.
When you go in to vote, you gotta give them your ID. You gotta fill out the paper. Okay. My dad's coworker, he was gonna do mail-in ballots this year. He goes there. He gets all the mail-in ballots for his whole family. Like, how many people could be out there doing that and putting a vote in for Biden? Like, the system is so. It is so fraudulent.
Why do you lose every court case then?
Because it was after the fact, and you're right. It was hard to get evidence. You have to have proof of it. They weren't prepared. They couldn't even. Half the people weren't even let in the rooms to see. Did you not see the videos of people trying to get in the rooms?
Who wasn't prepared?
They were locked out.
Wait, so did Trump's legal team? Did they run bad cases, and that's why they lost all the cases, or were they not?
They just didn't have.
Happened?
They just didn't have enough evidence for it because they weren't prepared.
That's a pretty good reason to lose a case, not having evidence.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you guys think the biggest examples of institutional racism in the United States are besides the police system?
Oh, this is serious? You want us to go through or what?
Yeah.
Okay, you want one? So we can talk about one or what?
Yeah, just...
Okay. Sure. Studies that are done about how if a black person puts out the exact, and this was done, the exact same resume as a white person, like exact same credentials, and submits it to a bunch of jobs, and their only difference is their race, they'll be declined a lot more. Like a lot more.
Where was that done? What evidence? Like,
oh, you want me to find it? I mean, I have it saved in a doc somewhere, Jeremiah. But
I mean, if we're on the racism part, do you guys like believe in reverse racism, as they call it?
Because just the way that I see race in America, I see that 99% of people look at everyone exactly the same. Do you guys not think that? Do you think that like 10% of people out there secretly just hate black people?
Yeah, there's more than 1% of people in America who are racist.
And here's the thing, though. I don't believe, and this is pretty obvious to everyone here, that there are people that are just looking at a black person's application, being conniving, and be like, I'm going to not deny him just for being black. That's not what we're saying here. We're saying here that there's an intuition built into people, maybe of no fault of their own, maybe just culture, maybe just education, maybe just their family, and maybe just tradition. But there's an institution of racism that seeps deep into the unconscious brain. It's not an active thing. I don't believe people are out here going, I hate black people. There's evidence.
It's provable. It's proven, actually.
You
guys like stuff that there's no evidence for? Is that what you prefer?
Can I have my question answered?
Go for it. Reverse racism? What is that?
Because I guess only white people can be racist. That's
not true.
That's absurd. Why would we agree with that?
I have a question about brain stuff.
Wait.
Let's answer this question first. Let's answer.
Wait. You don't think that a black person can be racist to me?
Wait, you said only white people can be racist. I said that's absurd.
We both said that it's absurd that only white people can be racist. That sentiment.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys don't. Okay.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What we disagree with is overarching statements of anything. Even if there's undeniable evidence in one direction, you can't just make a blanket statement. We don't believe in blanket statements. So when people go out here and say all cops are bastards, we don't agree with that inherently, because if you look at the evidence, maybe a large proportion, but we don't know, right? We don't know. We can't make blanket statements like that. So when you talk about reverse racism, I have a little anecdote here that's not. I might upset some of our left-wing viewers if you watch this, but we were reading an article in Mr. Bachtel's AP Lang class, and the lady was saying now Asian people are suing like Harvard and these other universities for what's it called? And now I can't remember because it's been so long since I've written a college application. What's it called when you affirmative action? They're suing because they're being denied because of affirmative action. And the lady basically was arguing, oh, now these Asian people are just riding off the backs of what the black people have done, which is like that in that particular instance was absurd, right? Because some of these Asian people are way more qualified than these other people that went in. The point of affirmative action is to give a little boost to people who come from poor incomes and might not have had the same educational opportunities. But do we fundamentally disagree with reverse racism? No, we don't agree. We don't disagree that it's a premise entirely. We just agree. Me and Connor agree that it happens way less than in the first direction.
I was gonna say, because I go to a pickup basketball game and I'm the only white dude there. I get looked at, oh, I'm this scrawny little white boy that can't jump, or I get called stuff on the sidelines. Like, I don't know. Another thing is, MLK. What did MLK want? He wanted to be the black race be like invisible. Everyone was the same. We're getting to a point in society where we need to make black people above everyone else. Like, you go to Netflix, is there a white cinema? Is there an Asian cinema? No, but there's an African American cinema.
Well, because like white cinema is everything.
Wait, what?
I mean, they have. I'm trying to think of other categories.
Section for it if it's in every other section.
But that's at the same time, you can't say that every movie was made by a white person.
No, but if you look at the majority of the things here.
But if we want everyone to be.
No, we're talking about do you believe in equality or equity? That's the question. Do you believe that everyone should? Do you believe that everyone should be on the same, exactly the same, or do you think everyone should be given what they deserve?
I think everyone should be on the same.
Even if they were institutional, currently and in
when I watch a movie, I don't. No, listen. When I watch a movie, I don't know if the producer of the movie is black or white. So why would this matter? Like, why?
Yeah, well, and you shouldn't care about it in that instance.
Right. So why do they have a category for black cinema?
Because they're pandering. That's the simple answer. They're just pandering to the movement. Instead of actually doing any social work on this issue, they're just pandering to people.
Okay. What were you gonna say, Jer?
I just kind of like wanted to get back to that whole brain thing, because like how you got, I don't know, like you guys said that there was some evidence for it. Like, what evidence were you talking about? Like, that there's a good amount of people that it's just ingrained in their brain to be racist?
Me. Yeah, there's definitely, like Nam pretty much explained it. There's like cultural stuff, family stuff. It's not ingrained, like you said, it's not ingrained to be outwardly racist. Like, you go up to a black person and call them the N-word, but it's ingrained to like have racial bias. Definitely, you can see it in a whole bunch of places. You can see it in employers accepting resumes. You can see it in police and who they pull over more than other people.
Let me put it this way. No matter if you see a bum in the street with his pants sagging down, he's pushing a shopping cart, you have an initial impression of that person. No matter if it's correct or wrong, you have a fundamental unconscious impression of them. What we're saying and what there's evidence for in these institutionalized racism cases, people have a fundamental connection with people of race. It is of no outward expression in their conscious brain. It is ingrained in their unconscious brain. That's what we're saying. Anything you look at, you make a decision about it. It's a fact. You make a decision about anything you look at. You make an opinion about it. And if you're to say that you don't make an opinion about someone solely based on anything, their clothes, their shoes, their height, their color, their skin, if you're gonna say that, I would completely disagree with you if you said you had no opinion.
I totally get that. Where I just disagree, and I guess if you guys have evidence, I'd like to see it, is that the majority of people like think that way.
We didn't say the majority, did we?
No, we
Or
didn't.
not the majority, but
Obviously, there's
I don't know. I get
obviously
that there's people that do, but I would say that the vast majority, and it's our society. I feel like our society has just come so far where if you even show 1 ounce of or hint of racism, like you were gonna get attacked and demonized. Like, do you guys not feel like our society's like that now?
Well, yeah, there's some reasons where the demonization is not valid, but there's many cases where it is completely valid in my mind.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying that's good that we demonize racist people because it's wrong to be racist. But I'm saying I think our society's at that point where if you guys are saying you have evidence that in the back of people's minds they have these secret feelings about these people, I'm saying that overall as a society, that's not how we treat it.
Yeah, and what do you think got us here? What do you think got us at this
Okay,
point?
you can live in the past and deal with that, or you can say, look how far we've come. That this is great. Now let's focus and keep making sure that we keep progressing and saying that we haven't.
Well, you said keep progressing. Do you believe in the progressive movement then? And I would say that's no. Do you believe
I disagree with a lot of it. I disagree with a lot of what.
So you want us to
stand
keep
for.
progressing without being a progressive?
Hmm?
You want us to keep progressing as a society without making any societal progressions. That makes a lot of sense.
Because Jared,
I never said that. I said I disagree.
That's
with a
what
lot
you're
of they
implying.
believe.
It's called logic. It's called reading into what you're
Wait,
saying.
no, hold on. So no, Jeremiah, I agree that like we don't have slavery anymore and like black people can vote and stuff like that. So we've made a lot of like big like changes like that. But if there's evidence for like police targeting people more because of their race or employers hiring or not hiring people because of their race, don't you think that we should also continue to change those things in order to, like you said, keep progressing? Okay, so why wouldn't you
about the
agree with,
police?
like,
About the police,
I do
when
get
you're
that, and like I said, I think the police system needs to be fixed clearly, but I completely disagree with how a lot of people want to go about it, like taking away money and defunding them. I think you need to shove more money at them and get them way more training and way more just preparedness for different situations, because taking away money and not giving them what they need isn't going to make the system any better. But
fair enough.
I think that's exactly what the intelligent people on the left are saying. You need more training. You can't just blindly take away money and not have a.
Where was the defund the police movement then?
Yeah, that's.
So
I don't know where that came from. I don't think that we fundamentally agree with every aspect of it.
Definitely not. Just like we don't fundamentally agree if Black Lives Matter protesters get violent. Now that I've already said we disagree with that. If people want to take funds away from the police, we disagree with that. We want to reallocate and do more proper training. So yeah, we agree with that as well.
I guess where we just disagree is that you guys think that within our society there's this blanket of racism, and I think our society has progressed to a point where that blanket's off. And sure, there might be these issues that we have like in our police system, but I think overall as a society we're at a point where the majority of people just not.
I agree with that. I think that most, like a very high percentage of the U.S. population does not care about the color of your skin and are not racist. There are obviously there's that small percentage of like there's that small racist percentage of people that just from their roots they hate black people, like all that type of stuff. But I think that the majority of the U.S. population doesn't give a flying F what the color of your skin is.
And I would go out on a branch and say that there are more people nowadays that look at white people in a discriminatory way than white people look at other races. And you guys might look at me like I'm stupid for that, but I know that there's a lot of people that look at white people like that.
Where's
Like
your
if you walk
evidence?
around with a Trump hat on, you are automatically going to be looked at like you're a racist person by a lot of people, even though I'm not a racist person at all.
I get told that I'm a racist. I'm a racist white nationalist every day because I support Trump. I don't agree with that.
How do you guys feel about that?
I don't think we think you're a racist at heart.
No, but how do you guys feel about like white people like being discriminated against in that way?
Okay, wait. Let me say something that should end this because I think all four of us can agree with this. Racism is when you discriminate against someone because of their race. If a white person does it to a black person or a black person does it to a white person, it's bad. And if people are calling you two white nationalists, but there's no evidence that you have ever been a white nationalist, then you're not, and they're wrong to do so. Okay, there we go. We settled it.
Okay, Connor, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
How do you feel that it's socially acceptable for people to call me racist and a white nationalist? Because that's socially acceptable in many circles, but being racist isn't socially acceptable in many circles that I know about. But you guys are saying racism, like,
okay, that's not in our circle.
Is worse.
That's not in our circle. I disagree if racism becomes socially acceptable in any capacity, and I disagree if falsely labeling someone a racist or a white nationalist becomes socially acceptable. We good?
Good.
Do you not believe me? We haven't called you guys racist.
I believe that you feel that way. I just
I didn't say it hasn't. I said I disagree if it has. I didn't say it hasn't become socially acceptable. I said I disagree if it has. How about that? That's what I think.
Yeah. Well, it clearly has.
If that's the case, I disagree. I disagree with falsely calling people racist.
Yeah.
All right, we've gone on this topic for a long time.
Wait, but one more thing.
All right.
Okay, Jeremiah, I don't want to argue because this would be incredibly hard to prove. I don't want to argue that racism against one group of people is worse than another because everybody has their own experiences. Yeah. And you guys are talking a lot about how the majority of the U.S. population doesn't care about race. That might be true. But one thing that we didn't really go into the specifics of it all was institutional racism. So we talked about with the police a lot, and you guys agree that we should reform the police, which is good. So when we're talking about institutional racism, we're talking about scenarios where, like, during the New Deal, banks gave loans to areas that didn't have any minorities. So the areas that the minorities moved into were underfunded, and therefore their housing is underfunded. Their school system is underfunded and staffed with teachers who don't care. So, and this is millions of people. That's continued on to today. So if you're born and your parents are addicted to drugs, or you only have one parent in the house and they don't care, and you're incredibly poor, and there's no good school system around you. So even if you were the top student at your school, it would be hard for you to get into a good college or get a scholarship. That's an instance that we're talking about when we're talking about institutionalized racism that you can carry over for generations.
Okay, so you said that like there was just evidence of banks not funding neighborhoods that had minorities?
Yeah, that's what happened during redlining during the New Deal.
During the what?
The New Deal. In the 30s?
Was that?
30s, 1930s. FDR, 1930s. New Deal after the Great Depression. Yes.
Okay. So like nowadays banks are still like funding.
Well, that's not what I said. I said so that set up a scenario where minorities were put in a position whereas it was extremely hard, and that's carried on for generations. Because I think you would agree, if you have one parent, or even if you have both parents and you're extremely poor, and there's no good school systems around you, and there's no good jobs to get around you, and it's hard for you to get money to escape and move to a more wealthy area.
Yeah, I get
it's hard,
that.
Right?
Yeah, but there's also, it's not like minorities are the only people that experience that.
Didn't say that, but they're disproportionately affected. It'd be hard for anybody in that scenario. So being a person, like you said, that wants to see society progress, you think we should help those people?
Yeah, but
How? Like give
I
them money
think
or
that
what?
we shouldn't look at it as a race issue. I think we should look at it as a country as a whole, and we should help these people that are suffering.
Okay, if I grant, so sure, I'll grant you that. Let's not look at it as a race, even if the basis of a lot of it was, for example, started in banks.
Yeah,
Giving not get okay, so even so, how should we help them? Is handouts not the way to go?
I don't think so. I think giving people handouts isn't teaching them anything. I think allowing
so that's
people to
true.
work for their money and learn how to.
Yeah.
So you believe in the $15 minimum wage?
How about that?
I mean, I don't know. You guys probably won't agree with it, but like, if someone working at McDonald's is making what's minimum wage right now? 12 or 11?
In Maine, but
in Maine.
30 states use the federal minimum wage.
So I know, I'm just saying. So
okay.
Maine minimum wage is 11. You bump that up to 15.
Yes.
The price or the cost of your McChicken at your local McDonald's is gonna go up. I just don't get it. Prices are just gonna go up. I don't understand it.
All right,
you don't understand that prices are gonna go up, or
I understand if the minimum wage is below, because some states you got like $8 minimum wage.
Okay, so so if you don't understand, what we can do is we can look at studies that have been done about what would happen if we raise the minimum wage in the U.S., or we can look at other countries. So let's start by looking at Australia.
What's the comfortable living? Isn't it like $13?
It depends on where you are.
Yeah, it depends on the cost of.
Could be $13 in more rural places. It's like $25 in New York.
True that.
Okay, so like in Denmark, or we could look at Australia. The minimum wage is 19. So in US that translates to 15, and the Big Mac there costs like 15 cents more than here. Same with Denmark. The pay in Denmark is actually $22 an hour. If you start at McDonald's, you're making a starting salary about $20 an hour, and the Big Mac and the menu items there are about 15 cents more than they are here.
So if we don't look at it like the Big Mac type of deal, if we look at not only the minimum wage going up, but gas, the Keystone, if you look at all of that, I think just other things other than a Big Mac is going to cost more. Like gas
housing?
Gas has already gone up. My tank used to take.
Right, but we haven't raised the minimum wage.
What?
We haven't raised the minimum wage in the time that gas prices have gone up. So how
we took out the XL Keystone or whatever that was.
Yeah, but we're talking about the minimum wage issue on its own here.
We already agreed about.
I know. I was just talking about with the minimum wage going up and other things like the XL Keystone or what is it? The pipeline. I'm not saying just the pipeline. I'm saying I think with minimum wage going up and this whole Keystone pipeline thing.
So do you agree that the federal minimum wage hasn't been changed since 2009, 2010? And housing has gone up 40% in that time. So all of this stuff has happened without us raising the minimum wage.
The thing is, the federal minimum wage hasn't gone up, but most of the wages have. Sure, there's still
30
people
states
working
use the
for,
7. Yeah.
There's still people working at that, but guess what? It's because those people are happy working for it. They're willing to do that. It's getting them by. It's enough for what they need. If they wanted more money, they can go out and work harder, find a new opportunity, and earn more money for themselves. I mean, do you not feel that way? Do you think?
I think that'd be great if that's how it actually worked, but that's not how capitalism functions in the United States.
Yeah, but if we're giving money out to people with...
so you think we should just have a blanket?
If someone... What are you saying, Jer?
Do you believe in the idea of a meritocracy, that people should be compensated for how much they work?
Yeah.
So let me put it this way. the productivity in America has gone up, is it like 200% since the 1980s, but the minimum wage has only gone up like 120%.
Yeah.
Do you agree? So if we were going by the same metric, the minimum wage should be $15 an hour right
Well,
now.
no, if you add in productivity rates with inflation, the minimum wage today, if it had raised incrementally, would be $24, which we're not even advocating for that. Just if you adjust it for inflation, it should be 15. That's just true.
I just you
When they
guys
set that though.
So is that not a good reason to raise the minimum wage to compensate workers how much
When
they
did
work?
they set that though?
Which the 725? Or when did they set the last minimum wage? Is that what you're asking?
Like what? Yeah, when did they set the precedent for all this stuff you guys are talking about?
It's
You
not
wanna know the
precedent.
history
It's,
of the
it's
minimum wage?
economics. It's the free market capitalist system. It just currently ebbs and flows.
No, I get that, but like our federal minimum wage, sure.
Okay, so in the early 1900s, there was no minimum wage in the United States. So I can't remember exactly the year, maybe 1910. They did the Fair Labor Standards Act, which established a minimum wage of like, I don't even know, but there had to be a minimum, maybe like $1. So an amendment to that act in 1966 raised the minimum wage to $1.60. So if you adjusted that to today, the minimum wage should be $12.78 federally. But that's not even taking into account productivity gains. So with productivity, it would be around 20. Because we agree that American workers have become more productive and more efficient since like the late 1900s, right?
Yeah, I get that, but I don't think that the dude working down at the McDonald's should be making $15 an hour.
So you don't think you should be able to survive?
Hmm.
You don't think you should be able to survive?
He can. I mean, obviously, I think he should be able to survive. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be able.
Well, that's
to
why they're
survive,
called
but-
death wages.
Hmm.
That's why they're called starvation wages. Because it's not enough.
Yeah.
well, when it comes down to that, if you're flipping a burger at McDonald's for your for your full-time job, I think it comes down to you should have worked harder in school.
Oh, so they deserve it.
Because
Well, it's not that they deserve it, but I mean, that's what are you doing?
I mean, like
for society, you aren't being very helpful. You're giving people.
Those are tough arguments to make, guys, saying they deserve it because they didn't work hard enough, especially when we agreed.
We're not saying they deserve it, but guess what? Anyone working at McDonald's, they could do other stuff. Like,
So you're saying that people should only be rewarded for what you think is noble work?
what?
no,
That's exactly what you said.
That is
You said you don't think
exactly
they're
what
doing a
you
good
said.
job.
no.
I didn't hear what the question was.
I just okay.
No, that is what you said. You said you don't think
What was
it's
the
that.
question?
It's that. He said you don't think it's that good of work. Like, oh, you're just flipping burgers at McDonald's. You're not doing that much for society. Therefore, you should either work harder or be okay.
That's what Jared said.
No, but I'm saying that if it's a capitalist market, if that's the job that's available and that's the wage that it's set at, like,
Yeah.
No, I got a question
that's
for you.
that's the opportunity you're
Yeah,
given. You have to do with what
No.
you're given.
Yeah.
You and Connor both worked really hard at school, right?
I suppose so.
We were given good opportunities, man.
Right, but when it came to college, did you get a good amount of money for like UMaine?
Yeah.
Because you were so high up in the class, like you worked your ass off.
We had two parents, and we were upper middle class.
Yeah,
which a
but
lot of
I
people
wouldn't
aren't.
say that I worked. Okay, so say my scholarship is $8,000 a year. And someone who didn't get a scholarship entirely or got like, okay, let's just use $1 because the mathematics doesn't work out when you work with zeros. I don't think I worked 8,000 times harder than what you would quote unquote call a bum. You know what I'm saying?
Right, but I don't know.
No, how about earlier when we talked about the scenario where someone's born to extreme poverty? So their high school, their middle school completely run down, underfunded, and the teachers don't care about them. They can work times harder than me and Non and not get like a full ride to a state university or anything close to that like we did. So is that fair? Is that their fault? Do they deserve it?
It's
So
not
then
fair, but everyone
we
is
can do it.
given. Everyone is put in a situation like, yeah, life's not fair. Life sucks, but everyone's put in a situation. You have to work with what you're given.
That's
But what if it's
Wait,
literally impossible?
Let me
to get
bring
out
this
of that
back to an
situation?
argument you made earlier. So you believe in equality, right? You believe in equality?
That was Parker that said that, but
No, I heard you both say it. I asked you specifically if you believed in equity
I
or
never said
equality,
that,
and you said
but-
you believed in equality. Well, we'll run the tape later.
Going off of what Jared said, though, he said you got to work with what you have. I mean, my dad, when he was a kid, he was living in a trailer park. I mean, my dad had nothing. He got up every day, worked his friggin' butt off, worked all day long, digging clams, breaking his back, doing blueberries. I mean, he worked his ass off, and now he owns his own company. Like, you got to work with what you're given. You can't just sit on your couch and hope that money's given to you. You know what I mean? You can't go to school, slack off so you work at McDonald's. And yes, I am saying that is not as good of a job as other things. Like, you've got to put work into it. And yes, there's different, like, you can be born into wealth and you get life given to you. But like, some people don't have that wealth, but they still work their ass off to get where they are today.
Okay, wait. So you think that everybody that was poor or put in a bad situation and didn't make it out to be successful, the sole reason that they didn't is because they didn't work hard enough?
You got to work hard. Like, life's not fair. I'm sorry.
No.
Like, everyone can't have life is not fair. That's just how it is. I don't like, I know you guys are big on everyone should have something. Like, we should all give out. Everyone you get this. Life's not fair. Life's not like that. I'm sorry. Like, that's just what I see. That's where I look at it.
The way I look at it is just, you have to work with what you're given. You're given a certain thing. Some people are given the shittiest hand ever. You're born to a drug addict-ridden family or a poverty-ridden family, or your dad abandoned you and you have a single mom that has to work 2 jobs. Like, yeah, some hands suck dick. Sorry to swear on this. I don't know if I'm allowed to.
It's okay.
That's a good analogy, though. I like that. The giving out a shitty hand.
But you can look at it as, crap, I was given a shitty hand. I'm going to feel bad for myself. Or you can say, damn, I've lived this life. I've had these experiences. I've learned hella lessons from these experiences. They've taught me so much. And other people that I might look at as more successful or having more opportunities than me, they haven't gone through what I've gone through. They don't know the lessons I know. And I can use these lessons that I've learned to advance in life and do things and help people. You can't look at it as, oh crap, I've been through all this stuff and now I'm just going to feel sorry for myself. Like, no, that's not how you're going to be successful in life.
Well, I mean, that would be a very honorable notion if people can just learn a lesson and suddenly move up in the world. I wish that was the case.
Well, it's not about learning a lesson and moving up in the world. It's about learning a lesson, being able to step back and look at how that can improve your life and improve your outlook on life and make you happy and what you can do with it.
Yeah, but how are you going to listen? So say you're not given the opportunity to go to college like we were, and you're working minimum wage. I know people work minimum wage. We're the hardest working people I know. Many people working minimum wage. So you believe that people can work hard, learn a lesson, and move up in the world. No one hires people who only have worked a minimum wage job and have not gone to college. And they can't afford to go to college because the minimum wage is too low.
Who says you need to be hired?
Well, okay, so here are the 2 options in Jeremiah's United States, or actually pretty much the United States we live in today. Work minimum wage, don't get hired. Work minimum wage, learn a lesson, somehow start a company, and be successful. Not everyone can be an entrepreneur. Why do you believe this notion?
It's not about being an entrepreneur. You don't have to make a lot of money to be happy and successful in life.
But we're not talking about being happy and we're not talking about being successful. We're talking about a bare standard of living. Do you believe that everyone in the United States of America should have a minimum standard of living? It could be really shitty, but minimal. And what we're saying here is the minimum wage is not even enough to have a basic humane standard of living. It's just not.
I don't agree with that.
Just look at the facts. Connor, you have the document.
It's tough. It's okay. I mean, at this point, if we're not going to change our opinions. I agree with the, obviously Nan and I aren't saying that people shouldn't work hard, and we're not saying that people shouldn't be lazy. What we're saying is that a segment of the population literally doesn't have a chance no matter how hard they work.
That's not true though. You guys, saying that is such a bad thing. That's the worst thing.
Saying that is acknowledging the facts, Jeremiah. Capitalism works against the majority of workers. Like, I love what you're saying. It's idealistic. It's just not true. You can't just work hard in a system that works against you.
You know what else isn't true? Telling a bunch of people that they just have no chance to move up, and that's
not what we're saying. We're not saying they have any chance.
They were spoon-fed from birth that they do have a chance to move up, and whatever they do, they can accomplish their dreams. But reality hits you in the face. It's just not true. It's the exact opposite of what you're saying.
Yeah, reality hits you in the face, and then people like you guys are like, shit, I don't like this. I was fed this easy little path of no resistance, and it's all going to be butterflies. No, shit's going to happen. Shit's going to go wrong. But you have to get over it.
Did you smoke before this, Jeremiah? You smoked some spice before this? What's going on, man?
You guys just...
It's provable. It's proven that capitalism works against people in that way. Everything you're saying is idealistic. I would love if it was true. I would love if no matter how hard you worked, you could succeed and do whatever you wanted. But that's just not the case.
You guys just like to play the victim card is the problem.
Neither of us are playing the victim, though.
Well, you're saying that all these
we're advocating for people who don't have a shot.
You're saying that in this system that's set up, and a lot of people don't have any chance to move up.
That's true. That's undeniably true.
That's not true, because every single person has an opportunity to move up in the world.
I wish
but the thing is, the blatant contradictions are just all over the place, because you already agreed with us that there are like low-income neighborhoods that people are forced into with virtually no chance. Like,
guess what? Guess what? You can come out of that neighborhood. People go out of
those they do, but a small percentage.
Guess what? Anyone can do it.
They can.
Saying that
they can.
You can't. Yeah, they can.
They don't, though. A large percentage don't. And the thing is, you see it as playing the victim card or like whining, but we see it as trying to help like the most underprivileged people in society. And that's the problem. We're not trying to play a victim card or anything like that. We just don't want to see people at the bottom that literally can't survive. And you're stuck in this idealistic take of like, they can make it out.
I think paying someone $15 an hour their whole life to work at McDonald's is a pretty shitty life and a pretty shitty thing to give them. I want to teach them how. Okay, you can laugh at it, but I know very few people that want to work for $15 an hour at McDonald's their whole life.
It's not about wanting. It's not about wanting.
The amount of intellectual dishonesty is crazy, because we're not advocating for them doing that their entire life. You're advocating for them being paid $7.25 though.
But you're saying a majority of people, that's going to be their lives, and you're okay with that.
What? When did I say a majority
we're
of people?
Acknowledging the existent situation. We're acknowledging the existent situation.
Crazy, bro.
You're being completely
what's crazy?
You're being completely
the way you misrepresent what we say.
You're being dishonest when you're saying.
I said, yeah, and that's not what you just said. That I said a majority of people, this is the case. I'm saying a large segment of the population, straight up, no matter how hard they work or what mindset they have, don't have a chance to succeed. Do some people still succeed? Yeah, some people make it out the hood, whatever, but a large percentage don't. It's true. That's what Jeremiah was saying. Oh, they can make it. It's extremely hard. And we're not saying play the victim, whiny, give them free stuff. We're saying even the hand a little bit, even it out a little bit. Give them a little bit more of a shot for their hard work to pay off. Because if you're saying that there's people that work hard and their hard work doesn't pay off. That's just that happens all the time in the United States. No matter how hard someone works, they'll never escape that. All we're saying is make their quality of life a little bit better. And you're against that for some reason. But that's fine because our opinions aren't going to change if we have
I'm
that
not
fundamental.
against making people's quality of life better.
That's exactly what it is.
Well, then why are you against raising the minimum wage then?
Because that's not gonna raise the quality of life.
It empirically is going to raise the quality of their life in the capitalist system.
It's gonna
That's
lower the amount
literally
of jobs that are available.
That is
Not true.
It's not true.
No, because you guys live in the idealistic, whatever I say, logic comes to my head is true. We live in a examine studies, empirical evidence, historical precedent, what happens in other countries. That's what we examine. And I know that's hard. It's tough to do and you guys don't want to do it. It's fine. But we're just telling you this is the truth and you can believe what you want based on nothing. That's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
You can be in you can be just condescending like that.
Okay, all right. Parker, last word.
I guess just the fact that last word you got me. Hold on. So just when you said people that come from nothing, that's a hard percentage, like the percentage of them getting out is very low. I think this is going off of what Jeremiah said. Anyone can work for what they want. I'm going to leave it at that. It's about how much you put in. You can laugh. I know, Connor, you can laugh. You can think what you want, but like
you were given a shitty hand, so you're fucked and you have to work.
Not what I'm saying.
Not
what I'm saying. I'm saying it's way harder for them, which isn't fair. That's
right,
all
so
I'm saying.
go work 2 or 3 jobs. Like it's the like how bad you want it. It's about how bad.
Oh yeah.
No.
Like that's all I'm gonna put out there. That's what I think.
Okay, Jeremiah, last word.
Basically just the same thing. I mean, look, you can say that it's about evening the playing field. The playing field's never going to be even, Connor. Never. It's never going to be, you might be better. Okay, laugh.
Well, Jeremiah, you're saying stuff that's not going off of what you're just saying random stuff now.
I'm not.
I don't know what you're talking about, bro. I'm talking about making their quality of life better and making their chances of succeeding a little bit higher.
If you let me talk, maybe you can. You were saying that you wanted to even the playing field and give those people more even. Now I fucking forgot because I'm high, but I had a good point, but you interrupted me. You were talking about evening the playing. Yeah, now it's completely gone. But whatever. It's never gonna be even, and it was something about that.
All right.
Okay.
Anyone else have any last words? Last word. Connor, anybody?
Wait.
No, I think it was very telling, man. This is good.
The whole any argument we've made today, just final thoughts about your position. Something that you don't want people to misunderstand about your position. Anything.
I don't want people to look at me and be like, oh, he's a Trump supporter. He's a racist. He hates blacks. He hates gays. Like, no, that's not it. And for the people that people are saying that Trump's a racist and he's homophobic, I don't agree with that. He has an openly gay cabinet member, or he did. He's not in office anymore. But to say that he's homophobic and against LGBTQ and to take their rights away, he had an openly gay cabinet member. That's my last thing. If we were,
and we're not going to argue with that, Connor. Jeremiah, your actual last word about what you don't want people to misrepresent about your position.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like anyone with a brain can understand what I was talking about, and if they want to make dumb assumptions about me, then they're gonna. But I know that I'm a good person that doesn't have any bad intentions toward anyone, so people can think what they want about me.
Okay,
love to come back.
All right, here's the actual last. Okay, thank you.
This is a good talk. I think it was. I mean, like some of it was kind of.
Oh yeah. Also,
you're a bad person. You're a bad person, but I think it was pretty good. I like seeing other point of views. So
love
Okay.
to come back on. Right,
Well-
Jeremiah?
Well,
I enjoyed this.
thank you both for coming on. We love to see you again when there's more news and we can talk about more specific
Awesome.
issues than the rambling thing that we've been doing. But yeah, that's the end of the show. Thank you both. You can go now.
Appreciate it.
Bye bye.